problem is asking us to do, and this is what's in your homework. This is 13 through 35. 13 through 35. It's also in a playlist right here. Okay? 13 through 35 playlist right here, right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to evaluate all 6 trigonometric functions. So if I give you an angle 3 pi over 4, the first thing we need to do is determine where is 3 pi over 4 and what is the point at 3 pi over 4. So I'm going to do this in 2 different sections. All right? First, I need to determine where 3 pi over 4 is. 3 pi over 4, remember, guys, when we were talking about a circle, halfway around the circle was pi. Correct? Halfway around the radians. Right? Halfway around would be pi radians. If here was 1 radian, 1, 2, 3 radians, and then 3.14159 radians, which is pi, is halfway around the circle. So what I'm going to do, since I know that that's going to be in pi, and I need to break this up into fourths, I need to figure out what 3 pi over 4 is. So if I break this up into fourths, I take my denominator, and that's what I'm going to break my half circle into. So therefore, this is 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4. So that's my angle right there. OK? Because remember, we always have our initial side, and that's my terminal side. So that's my angle. Now the next thing, I need to determine what is that point on the unit circle right there. Right? We know where the angle is, but what's that point at the unit circle? So in my video of how to memorize the unit circle, what I explained to you guys is if you can understand and if you can memorize the first quadrant, all we need to do then is replicate that to the different quadrants, knowing the positive and negatives of the angle. So my first quadrant has the coordinate points 1, 0, 0, 1. This point is 1/2, square root of 3 over 2. This point is square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. This point is going to be square root of 3 over 2, 1/2. So remember in my example, I said x and y, x and y, x and y. These are the coordinate points for certain angles. Now, what were these angles again? Well, in my video, I explained for this one is going to be for the angle of pi over 6, which is the same thing as 30 degrees. This angle is pi over 4, which is the same thing as 45 degrees. And the last angle was pi over 3, which is the same thing as 60 degrees. OK? So that was in where we got to this. So if I said, hey, is there a point on the unit circle at 30 degrees? Yeah. What is that point? Square root of 3 over 2, 1/2. All right? So what point is this? This is 3 pi over 4, right? Well, 3 pi over 4, if you think about this, that's pi thirds, 2 pi thirds, and 3 pi thirds. So if this is pi thirds here, what we're going to have is this next one. This is just going to be a reflection to right over here. So therefore, this angle is going to be a reflection of the y-axis of this angle. So therefore, the reflection is now going to be, if I take this angle and I reflect it over the y-axis, it's going to be -1/2 square root of 3 over 2. All right? If you guys want to understand this maybe a little bit more, you can look in the back of the book on your unit circle and look for the angle 3 pi over 4. When you find the angle 3 pi over 4, what you'll see is it's at the coordinate point -1/2, 2. So this angle, this point right here, is at -1/2 square root of 3 over 2. That's the point on the unit circle when you have an angle of 3 pi over 4. OK? But that's not what they're asking us to do. That's what you're supposed to do right here, which is 5 through 12. Now they want us to determine what is sine of theta, cosine of theta, and tangent of theta. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, my God. You guys are just like looking at me, not making any sense. Nobody's like asking any questions. Everybody's just like dead on the end of the day. Guys, this is 3 pi over 4. OK. 3 pi over 4, that's pi fourths. I'm even like looking at you guys. Pi fourths, 2 pi fourths, 3 pi fourths. Therefore, it's a reflection of this angle. This angle is pi fourths away from the x-axis. This angle is going to be pi fourths away from the x-axis. Therefore, it's a reflection of this point, which is negative square root of 2 over 2, comma, square root of 2 over 2. So my apologies. This angle is negative square root of 2 over 2, comma, square root of 2 over 2. Because if you look in your unit circle and the back of your book, and you see what is the coordinate point on the unit circle for the angle 3 pi over 4, it's not negative square root of 3 over 2, comma 1/2. It's going to be negative square root of 2 over 2, comma negative square root of 2 over 2. OK? So there's the sine. So we need to determine sine, cosine, tangent. The sine, remember, here's a coordinate point, x and a y. So what is the x coordinate? Well, for the sine, what is the y coordinate? That is just going to be square root of 2 over 2, right? Because remember, sine represents the y coordinate. Cosine then represents, Miranda, what is the x coordinate? Well, the x coordinate is just negative square root of 2 over 2. Tangent, y over x. So I take the y coordinate, which is square root of 2 over 2, divided by negative square root of 2 over 2. Are those fractions exactly the same except for their negative sign? Are they exactly the same? Yeah. So they just equal negative 1. OK. Now let's do the reciprocal functions. Cosecant of theta. That's 1 over y. Right? Sine is equal to y. That one's equal to x. So cosecant of theta is equal to 1 over y. So that's going to be 1 over the square root of 2 over 2. So when we have a fraction in our denominator, Connor, what do we multiply by? Yeah, you multiply by the reciprocal, right? So therefore, that's going to be 2 over the square root of 2 on the top and the bottom. Well, this then multiplies the 1. And then this multiplies to equal 2 over radical 2. And then in geometry and in algebra 2, we talked about when you have, and even actually in pre-calculus, when we have an irrational number in the denominator, we have to make sure we rationalize the denominator. So my final answer here is going to be 2 square root of 2 over 2. Those cancel out, which is just going to equal square root of 2. All right? This, guys, is going to be the exact same. You guys see how this is the exact same numbers except the one's negative? You guys see that? So guess what? I don't need to do all that work again. I just know it's going to be negative square root of 2. It's the same thing. It's the same numbers. It's just one's positive, one's negative. Then we do our last one, which is cotangent, which is x over y. And therefore, that's going to be negative square root of 2 over 2 divided by square root of 2 over 2. And that, again, just equals negative 1. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, you can see we have now found the sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, and cotangent. OK? Any questions? OK. I'm not going to bore you, because obviously I think some students have already been bored enough by my 10-minute